Welcome to Examining Tax Policy. I'm Amy DeLaura, and we're joined here today by Senator Todd Young, the senator from Indiana. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Amy.
Now, the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is set to expire at the end of the year, and there's currently a reconciliation bill moving its way through Congress. But the blue state liberal Republicans have fought to quadruple the local and state tax deductions, costing hundreds of billions of dollars. But will Senate Republicans from fiscally responsible states, such as yours of Indiana, allow this effective tax subsidy for New York and California to remain in the upper chamber's one big beautiful bill?
I sure hope not. Republicans need to press hard on this issue through a series of gimmicks and profligate state legislatures and governors in recent year. We've just seen a blue state blowout in terms of state and local expenditures. People in red states, they demand fiscally responsible government. They demand it from their own governments, and they certainly demand that their federal legislators go to bat for them so they don't have to subsidize other state and locality profligate. So that's essentially what many Democrat colleagues want to happen in this legislation. I hope they don't prevail, and I hope we have enough Republican colleagues push back against these SALT provisions that you're alluding to.
So will the Senate give the House Freedom Caucus their wish of overhauling Biden's Green New Deal subsidies and expediting the imposition of Medicaid work requirements?
Well, I have to tell you, the Freedom Caucus has been a really important voice throughout this whole tax reform debate. I have encouraged them to make sure that as we reauthorize many of the provisions of the 2017 tax law, the Trump tax cuts, we're also looking to reform some of the largest programs of government and get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse within those programs. They're important programs to all Americans, I think. However, they were intended for certain purposes, and those purposes are being ignored. And programmatically, we're seeing a lot of wasted taxpayer dollars. As we think about the debt, trillions of dollars of debt that we're passing on to our children and grandchildren, it is essential that we save every spare penny and either leave it with the American people as they take care of their families, or make sure that we're paying down some of those obligations as we head into the future.
Now, you put forward the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act. How much of that is in the House reconciliation bill?
Well, let me just step back and tell you that when I came to Washington on behalf of Hoosiers, fiscally responsible people, it was amazing how frequently I heard, especially in more rural communities, that housing was a pressing challenge. The lack of housing specifically was causing people not just quality of life issues, but preventing them from taking jobs. Because you need houses near where the jobs are, and they and members of their family found that wasn't the case. So I decided to work on this issue. The Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act takes a long-standing public-private partnership known as the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, which has been very cost-effective. It's led to the build-out of millions of houses historically and been strongly supported by Republicans. When we did the Trump tax cuts, though, each of the individual credits that go back to a state like Indiana became worth less. So to account for that and to build 1.6 million additional houses across the country, we have a fix here to ensure that each of the credits keeps up with the tax rates. So a bit of a boring bookkeeping issue, but essential to those Hoosiers, almost all working, who take advantage of this program to be able to live near where jobs are.
No, it's absolutely essential for providing for your family, and you don't want that long commute to be able to then take away from your time with family,
Absolutely.
which I know is so important to you. Yeah,
absolutely.
So Kevin Hassett says the House versions of the big beautiful bill will prove deficit neutral if economic growth rebounds 3% annually. But are you worried about Wednesday's dismal Treasury auction and the potential future cost of financing national debt?
I am. I am worried about those sorts of things. I will say Moody's and other forecasting agencies have a real habit in recent years of piping up about the importance of the national debt when Republicans are in control, remaining silent when Democrats are in control. So I wanted to let them know that the American people and many of us legislators were paying attention. That said, everything in the report is accurate. We have way too much debt. Our spending patterns are absolutely unsustainable. That's been the case, of course, for a lot of years. Things got worse in recent years with the Biden administration. We have an opportunity now to reassure financial markets, most importantly, honor the promises we made to the American people when many of us ran for office, that we would tend to this issue and do everything we could to reform the largest programs of government while sustaining economic growth. Now, we're not going to grow our way out of this problem. It's going to take some difficult spending decisions as well. And so my constituents, they want to see both. They want us to reaffirm and reauthorize the Trump tax cuts, improve them where possible, and then see programs like Medicaid and figure out how to shore those up, getting rid of waste, abuse, or even fraud in some cases. That has been what the Freedom Caucus is pushing for. That's absolutely what I'm pushing for as well. I don't think we should have unrealistically high estimates of rates of growth moving forward, though. Here again, I'm a conservative. Conservatives don't assume unrealistic numbers. We assume conservative estimates of what the economy will be growing at. I hope and I believe this is what Kevin Hassett was talking about. So this is something I'll be analyzing in coming days to ensure that we are accepting modest assumptions, not aggressive assumptions, especially with so many other complicating factors that could tank our economy in coming years.
Right. Well, speaking of tanking economy, 80% of Americans say if their taxes were to go up, they couldn't afford essential basic goods. However, only 52%, 88% Republican and 15% Democrat want to extend the 2017 bill. What is the disconnect here? Is it just bad messaging from the Republicans?
Well, some of it's a function of the fact that you actually have fewer Americans that have to itemize their finances because we doubled the standard deduction last time. So that means that a whole lot of people can, with very little compliance costs, go ahead and fill out taxes very quickly. It's not something they have to worry about a lot. So that understandably, among some Americans, led to less familiarity with the details of the last tax reform because they didn't have to worry about the complication. So they can thank the Republican Party for simplifying their lives, even if it, as an unusual byproduct, caused some people to be less familiar with the details. But I would say this. American people are commonsensical people on balance. Certainly, I can say that about my constituents. And they want us to figure out these things in Washington. They don't want to give outrageous tax breaks to the super wealthy. They want us to keep the largest programs of government solvent. They want us to be honest with them about how we can do that, and they also want to keep taxes at a modest level. I think we can accomplish all of those things, and then I would prefer to sell the package to my own constituents if necessary, after having satisfied each of those different parameters, not asking in isolation if they like the Trump tax plan, because there are a lot of self-interested people in this town and across the country who will try and bash it. I can tell you in advance we will have some of those, whatever we pass, and it just helps to have the facts on your side. So that's our goal, get the facts on our side, then go make the argument.
So the One Big Beautiful Bill is talking about adding even more tax credits and even more tax cuts than the 2017 version. However, you are big on fiscal responsibility. The one person who came to DC trying to slash spending, Elon Musk, was literally set on fire to try and get out of. How is the country supposed to pay for this? It all sounds great to be saving all this money, but how you want to talk about these cuts in other places. How are we seeing that?
Well, Elon Musk, he didn't get to be the wealthiest person in the world without also being pretty smart, right? And Elon Musk would tell you that relative to the overall size of our budget, the programs he was looking at and the savings he identified with his compatriots there in Doge are pretty small relative to the overall size of the budget. He wasn't looking at what are sort of popularly should be considered autopilot spending programs. He wasn't looking for ways to shore up Medicaid or Medicare or even Social Security, all very popular programs. Instead, he was looking at programs that annually Congress looks at and spends money on, appropriates money on. That would be, over half of that is national security spending. It's spending on DOD, on FBI, on Homeland Security, on our intelligence agencies, and so forth. And then we have other spending in that other half of the budget is roughly an eighth of the budget that's spending mostly on the future. That's higher ed expenses, workforce development. This is research spending so that we can remain the most innovative country in the world, and government research plays an important part there. So it's highways and other infrastructure. All of these things would strike, I think, most Hoosiers as, yes, heck yeah, that's important stuff. We ought to keep funding that. He was targeting waste or less defensible, narrow programs in those annual spending. 2/3 of our spending is the other stuff, though, mandatory. You throw in the interest on the federal debt, which exceeds our DOD spending now, and we're looking at roughly 3/4 of federal spending is on autopilot. So that's what we now need to focus on, not on the less than 1% of annual spending verified that would lead to savings under Doge, less than 1% verified last time I looked. Instead, let's look at the 3/4, if you include the interest, that's really driving our budgetary imbalance, along with the tax reform. And that's what I and other conservatives have been pushing for.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how it goes through. Well, Senator Todd Young from Indiana, thank you so much for joining me today. And you can catch more exclusive interviews, straight news, and conservative views at washingtonexaminer.com.